Hello. Let's take a look at episode 4 of season 3 of House of the Dragon. We start off with a bunny. Bunny, there's some good shots. I like the visuals of this show, don't you? This proves that some good directing, some good budget, some good time spent. You get some good looking shows, not all the shows get this production value. Just even like how the camera starts here, it's just a nice little shot here, a nice little filmmaking shot for the filmmaking people in the crowd there. How it pans up, I don't know, just a little thing there, but overall it's pretty good. So basically we got the Ormond's crew coming in to this little village on the outskirts of King's Landing. Maybe I think it's like not too far away from King's Landing, but we're establishing that the soldiers are coming in and they want to be sheltered in the random villages folks here's homes. And it's very intrusive. And this is something that happens in wartime. And the war and these soldiers take advantage, and we're gonna see where that leads there. But one thing is Ormond here, the head of this army here. He is. We're gonna get to know more about him this episode, including his butt. So he's like making himself known. He's pretty arrogant. He takes over this noble house, homes, living room area, takes a bath right in there. So here's the thing about this thing. Like the other day, I was saying how casual nudity is quite fine with me, but it all depends on the context, right? Because last time we had the scene where Allison just walking in on the cop soldiers at King's Landing, during their showering time, and it's to be expected if you're gonna walk in on in that situation. But here he uses his nudity as an intimidation tactic. It's something to show his power here, like kind of similar, in a different way to how Eamon did that in the brothel scene where he kind of stood up, naked, and walked away to like kind of showcase that he wasn't at all like hurt or affected by his brother bullying him and stuff. That was a different context, but this is more about intimidation factor. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to just stand up here, show you my full body. I don't care. And putting them, particularly the woman here who later is going to bring up the fact that one of his soldiers abused a woman. Like, he specifically, this has some tinge of like, the first little tinge of sexist intimidation here, from this guy towards this noble lady to do this, in front of her. So of course this is one of those moments where it's not overtly like it's not like overtly sexual harassment. It kind of is, but it's like more of an intimidation factor, versus but it's like a clue. It's like a hint of what's to come here, of men using their power here to assert themselves. But yeah, it's like, it kind of reminds me of like, it's all about context. Like, it kind of reminds me of the situation also of like what happened a couple maybe early this year, right? There was the DoorDash situation where a DoorDash employee delivered a package, and there was this guy there that was just like laying down with his pants down, and like he wasn't like it wasn't a situation where he was like pushing himself on or anything. It was just like he was just there, but it was obviously intimidation, harassment situation, and so it's kind of similar to that, where it's like kind of that gray area, but not really, because we know what he's doing here. So that's that situation. That's kind of showing casing his character. And then also we get a little bit more about and a confirmation that this guy is actually Darren. He's the actual son of Alicent. You know, we didn't get that confirmation till now. Before we saw him though, in like a couple episodes ago, was it the first episode? We saw him in the background. He looked like just like a squire or something, and he's kind of pretty much a squire to this Ormond character, showcasing really here how he's acting as this tough father figure towards him. You know, he's been raising him, you know, to be the successor and perhaps take the throne, because he's all about, you know, his family, the Hightowers, being better, superior to the Targaryens. We're going to get into that later, but here's a reveal that is in fact Darren, and. So it's interesting. I was wondering too, like the whole dyeing hair situation. So they dyed the hair of the fake fraud, other Darren character. When they tricked Rhaenyra and crew, I guess was the assumption that Darren has always had like blonde hair. Is that? But then here he has red hair, and so does that mean that they're dyeing his hair red here? Is that what's going on, or did Rhaenyra and Daemon just never knew about his hair? Like never knew how he looked like, you know? And when Alicent saw the fake one, she didn't really say anything about the hair. She just acknowledged that that wasn't her son. So I'm a little bit confused about that. They should make it a little bit clearer. But that's just a little odd thing there to think about, because I'm thinking, you know, if he's dyeing his hair red in order to be more like a Hightower, influenced by Ormond, because Ormond wants him to be more Hightower than Targaryen. So that could be a factor in there. I don't know. We'll see where that goes. And back at King's Landing, we're getting a better idea of the formation of Rhaenyra's council here, and it's looking like a good council. Here she officially lets Orwell into the group here. He's now part of the council now, and these actually, you know, it's really like these two are probably the best of the council. Mysaria and Orwyn here. I'm really liking this group here. It gets a little bigger by the end here at the end of the episode, but looking good. You know, Rhaenyra's still kind of still, you know, feeling herself through this situation here, and in learning as she goes along here what best to do to lead. But I think at this point so Ormond's still at he's still like present. Later on, Ormond leaves that village. So, and then we also, I guess, we have this guy as the King's Guard, who we never really get properly introduced. There's a couple characters that kind of just show up here, and we kind of just have to fill in the blanks ourselves, like how that happened. But it's not that important. They found the cop guy found a replacement to be an official King's Guard, so that's fine. But in general, this episode, particularly the beginning here, is a very kind of cozy episode. Like, we're establishing that, like, it's kind of nice. It kind of feels a little bit like almost like West Wingy. Like, I never really watched West Wing, and I don't particularly like the centrist Democrat establishment type of Aaron Sorkin writing and development of that show. But I kind of have I kind of do like, political dramas in general, and it kind of has that feeling now. It just kind of more of a chill walk and talk situation here sort of situation of just hanging out in the seat of power, in the halls of power, and seeing how all these things are how these powerful people are maneuvering and stuff. And we get and it gets, there's that cozy feeling here of just hanging out in the courtyard garden with the old friends Rhaenyra and Alicent, kind of almost like a reunion situation of like, hey, let's, in particular, in different circumstances, right? She's kind of still a prisoner here, but at the very least they're pretty taken care of pretty well here. and so like, and yeah, and so yeah, so it's just it's nice, you know, and it's also because like it's funny because I'm watching the Vampire Lestat as well, and there's also an episode this week of just Louis and Lestat hanging out and stuff, you know, so it's like we're getting some cozy, feel good TV these days. It's pretty nice. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. By the way, Corliss, you know, he's not so cozy with Rhaenyra. But what were they talking about here? Oh yeah, the odor. So that's an important point here. She gives some info because you know Rhaenyra is still like trying to get some guidance from Alice. She can't officially put Alice on the council table, you know, because that would just look weird for the old regime queen to be you know, by her side. Ideally she would be able to do that. Like that would be that would be even cozier, you know. Let's have a House of the Dragon political drama with Rhaenyra and Alicent at the helm, you know. That would be nice. But no, this is the show. So that's the odor thing. So she reveals that Ormond has this odor fixation sensitivity to odors, and we do get a couple clues actually during that the scene in the bath. I think there was a moment where like he like put his hand up to his nose or something that I didn't like really pay much attention to. But at some point, like he like this, I probably can't find the exact moment. Is it right here? Here, maybe it's right here. Like right here, yeah. Like, it's like he smells them stinky or something. Did someone fart or something, or is he just like, you know, it's like you have to take your own bath, you know. He's very cleanly, of course. He's all about the odors, so it's like that's a particular weakness, a little bit of a Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's odor coming in here, Chekhov's nose, where we're gonna probably have a scene, a pivotal moment upcoming at the end of the season where there's going to be a special odor that really tricks Ormond, and that's going to lead to his death. I don't know. We'll see. But that's a little tidbit there that's going to come into play that Rhaenyra is going to try to plan out. What is she going to do? Is she going to introduce? Is she going to use perhaps dragon poop to like mess up his senses and get a leg up on Ormond there? I don't know. Maybe we'll see. And so it's Corliss here. So we didn't really get a resolution between the Corliss and Rhaenyra fight battle last time. It kind of just cut away from that because that was like the pacing of that particular episode. This episode is a little bit more, again, more standard, typical Game of Thronesian episode of bouncing back between different characters, different places. We get a lot of places in this episode, just kind of like table setting, but like well done, you know, well done table setting for the upcoming stuff. This is episode 4, but it was kind of supposed to be episode 2 of this season, you know, because the first episodes were supposed to be the finale of last season, you know. But anyway, so Corliss here, he's making it clear, like, hey, like, you know, he's mad with Rhaenyra. He's gonna go out onto the field, you know. He's gonna go, even though they don't need to see captains at this point. They're fighting on land. He's gonna take up that spot in the command on the field, you know. So I guess is he going towards? Oh no, I think they mentioned later that he's gonna go fight the pirates that came up on shore. So that's, you know, that's something good to do to keep them under control, you know, because they're ravaging the lands, you know, pillaging and stuff. And so that's like a good thing to do, to show that, yeah, he's still useful, but also acknowledging that he doesn't really want to be by Rhaenyra's side at the moment because he's really pissed off at her, you know, rightly so, for not like, you know, being hypocritical and not giving titles to his sons here. But he's also leaving his son Alan here with a good position, like, hey, you take my seat for the time being, you know, and be the hand, you know. And he does it, you know, and so that's a pretty good thing. He's still looking out for his sons now. And then we got the fun duo of Aegon and Laris here, who come upon the dragon's son. Is it Sunfire? What's it? Something like that. And of course, Aegon's really sad about the dragon there, and he is trying to connect with it. We see like some scarring on the dragon. Maybe a little bit here. I thought I saw some more in another shot. And there's certainly some flies about. I'm wondering if there's a better shot. I remember seeing like flies around the dragon, or maybe that was the other dragon. I'm pretty sure, like as if it was like rotting away. Okay, we see a little bit there. It's hard to see in the 4K version. It's more noticeable, but there's some flies there. Yeah, it's hard to see. It's kind of blurry, but about indicating that is a rotting corpse. But it kind of gives you maybe the impression that this dragon's gonna come back to life. Like, how do dragons survive? Okay, there you kind of see like the flies around here a little bit flying about, and so I feel like that the dragon might come back to life. Of course, these people here are kind of like, trying to make a buck out of showcasing the dragon to people, and Laris obliges, because he doesn't want to raise suspicions. But they're getting pretty suspicious here, especially with this guy, with Aegon here. And I don't know. He also like takes a scale. I don't think we see him take the scale here. It cuts away. Later he sees he has a scale, which might come into play later. But I suspect that I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of hibernating in a way as he's rotting. And dragons are magic, right? They have magical powers somehow. They can telepathically communicate with their riders in a certain way, and they can breathe fire, and they live so long. So maybe like dragons can come back to life after a little bit of hibernation as they even kind of reverse decomposition. I don't know. Could be a thing. Who knows? Either that or Alice the witch is going to come by and resurrect it, and we're going to have a zombie dragon fighting up in the sky. That would be pretty cool. Those are just my little thoughts there. So we come back to the castle, Helen Hall, Heron Hall, and of course it's Kristen Cole and Allison's brother. What was his name? I forgot his name. Allison's brother. It's not Ormond. Ormond's the other guy. Gwaine Hightower. So they're together, and Gwaine's like, he's like the normal guy out of all these, like the most normal of all these people here. And like anyway, so they come up upon Alice here. So of course last time Aemond was here with his dragon, and they're nowhere to be seen, And of course, he was stabbed and he was bleeding out at the foot of Alice's feet there, and it would appear that Alice has taken Aemon and is trying to hide him away, and get him to get better, cure, tending to his wounds and such, and perhaps even doing some magic. Like, we don't know the extent of her magic, but she seems to have some control over at least the environment here, and maybe even the spooky environment when she was at that coast with the Ulf and Hugh and Adam. Maybe certain areas she has the ability to kind of conjure illusions or something. She was able to at least confuse and confound Damon when he was here. But of course, I think she gave him some special drink. But she probably has some sort of magic and to be able to manipulate the surroundings here to make it maybe even more spookier, and perhaps even to hide a big old dragon. Could she have the ability to make a dragon invisible or lure the dragon into a cave or something. It would have to be a big cave for that dragon to, I think, you know. But we have seen the Vhagar big dragon in previous episodes. They were just hanging out in the forest, like hiding underneath a bunch of leaves or something. So maybe there's a way for Alice to hide the big old Vhagar. Or it could be that Vhagar is also attached emotionally and somewhat physically to Aemon. So when Aemon is suffering and wounded, maybe Vhagar feels like they have to rest too. So I don't know. It could be something to do with that, but definitely Alice is taking advantage of the situation here to tell them like, hey, like Aemon is gone. He fled, and guess what? Rhaenyra has taken King's Landing. And you know, Kristen Cole's not taking that well. He's like philosophizing about, hey, we gotta keep up. We gotta fight at this point without the dragons, and as honorable men, you know, his form of honor, you know, and not let us be burnt and taken over by these Targaryens, who are going to destroy the world with these dragons, and we're just little ants to them. Like, let's make use of this opportunity to attack, you know, like real men, you know. And so that's his whole thing. And he kind of twists the fun thing here, interesting thing here, is he twists the words that Gwaine delivered to him, which Gwaine was saying how like we shouldn't become beast, you know, we should have honor, something about that. And he was relating that, of course, to the sexual assault at the camp, you know, and to punish the rapist there. And Kristen Cole wasn't, you know, too concerned about that. But he kind of twists his words here. He's like, hey, we got to fight like men and not beasts, you know, must cling to our honor lest we become beasts ourselves, you know. We're just like, you know, and Gwaine's like, wait, that's not what I meant, you know. Like, you know, so he's taking those words, you know, so he's kind of representing, you know, kind of like the dumb guy, almost like the dumb jock warrior type, and who truly believes in what he's saying and stuff. But he's kind of just misguided, you know. And of course, he has a vengeful side to him against Rhaenyra. I think a little bit of misogyny there. And then, but also it's like, you know, he's become very nihilistic because of these dragons. So he kind of feels, I feel like he explains here too how he doesn't really have a home to go to, like Gwaine does. Gwaine is from a noble family, you know. He has, even with Rhaenyra at the top, Gwaine is going to be okay, but Kristen Cole won't. So he feels like this is it. It's like either he's pretty much all he has left is to die trying to in this battle, you know, the best he can, even though the odds are against him, you know. Let us become raised with fear as our stand. So it's an interesting development. Definitely, Cole is becoming a very more interesting character this season than ever before, and that's what you get when you get a TV show like this that really builds the character over seasons, you know. Really start to understand them better and build a bigger picture here. So that's Kristen Cole and Gwaine. And so now we head back to King's Landing, and Alan here explained to Rhaenyra, hey, like Corlys, my dad, he's gonna go on the field, and I'm interested. I'm scared for Corlys. I feel like this might be the moment where Corlys passes at some point here in the next couple episodes on the field. You know, he's had a lot of near misses, but this, you know, that could be a sad moment. But we do have Alan and Adam here, and Alan's gonna pretty much seems to be take the place of Corlys. And even though he's reluctant to do it, I feel like you know, this is a good fit for Alan, you know. And he's been, again, now the council, Rhaenyra's council, is really becoming really good. Like, we're having more, you know, new faces, you know, younger faces somewhat. Really, you know, feels a little more hopeful. Oh, maybe this could be a true benevolent queen situation, or rulers who actually care, you know. Maybe this could be a good thing. Maybe, you know, maybe just this little bit of reform is enough, is all we need. But here he is giving her the tip that like, hey, we should probably get a cat, or a couple cats, because of the rat problem. Because of the last regime killed off the rat catchers. So that's some making himself known as like, hey, like I know how to deal with some things, So I think Rhaenyra is going to like Alan here, so that's good. They're gonna work well together. So and they kind of make a connection between how she talks about her father, how like, it's kind of hard, fathers, fathers, they're, you like them, but you don't like them, they're hard to work with, and sometimes, you can respect them and they can inspire you, but you can also really despise them at moments, and so they connect, with that, connecting Corlys and Viserys as similar father figures. So that's cool. So yeah, it's again, like we're finally getting a little bit more, with Alan here, we're really getting to know him better, and his character's developing better, and that's good to see there. And so here's the scale here. So is it a scale? I thought maybe it was a tooth. I think it's a scale, right? I thought maybe it was kind of shark toothy little ridges here, but no, I think it's a dragon scale. And so, that's going to come into play, I imagine, these little moments here, these little things, of course, we have like, the odor thing with Ormond. That's a little foreshadowing. This scale is definitely a foreshadowing for something. Like, I feel like they're telling us that the dragon's going to come back to life, I guess he could use that scale to buy himself out of something. I'm sure that scale is worth a lot of money, a lot of gold. So, but, maybe, the dragon will smell the scale and be able to track Aegon, or something when they come back to life. I don't know. We'll see where that goes. And then, of course, so he's going in. This is Rook's Rest. This is after the big old battle, of course, like several, probably months, but at this point since that battle. And seeing some of the people here, just the regular folk, the downtrodden, the folk that people don't care about here, the high ups don't care about, of course. Good, it's a better representation of the lower classes, the poverty in this world. People with disabilities here that no one really cares about throughout here. So and what they have to do, but also the people that take advantage of them, including people of the same class. He's almost like a mirror of Aegon. Like he's an authoritarian leader of this camp here, versus Aegon, who's the authoritarian leader at the King's Landing back in a few months ago. But now he's getting a taste of his own medicine situation here, and of course he's very reluctant to bend the knee. But Larys, of course, is trying to get Aegon to comply, for his safety. Like, hey, like think about the long game. The short term, you got to maybe clean some shit and piss and stuff, as this is one of the jobs he's gonna take here. But in the future, maybe you can get back on that throne. So we'll see. But some people are getting suspicious here. You got some suspicion here. Something's going on. We'll see where that goes. And, oh yeah, by the way, this is Hugh Hammer's wife, right? She at the end of the other episode, maybe episode 2, we saw her run out of King's Landing, and this is gonna be, it's showcasing really just how in these war times you can't really escape war. It's hard to escape war. Especially when you're nearby. The war comes to your footsteps, and these soldiers are taken over, and we have another moment of sexual assault here. It's becoming a little bit a little much. I don't know, like it's part of the themes of the story, of course, but it was again uncomfortable to see another moment of sexual assault here. Pretty brutal moment there. We can skip past it, but the you know, her husband does defend her, and so it does. At first, I thought like, damn, like he's actually just gonna kill him and that's it. But we do get a follow up to this that's even more revealing of Ormond. So that's a situation that happened, fortunately. But again, the war comes for everybody, and so we're gonna get back to that later. But this is back at the King's Landing. We got what was he asking here? You know, we get you know, unfortunately, he doesn't even know what's going on at with where his wife is at. Unfortunately, I guess they're just planning out different things here. Oh yeah, Ulf sees the graffiti there. You know, he's gonna bring that up later. Gets a moment with his fellow tavern mates. You know, it's like, oh, like, guess what? It was right all along. He was a descendant of the Targaryens or whatever. He is Targaryen, somewhat. So, you know, connecting with the real folk and the small folk and stuff. That's nice. And then of course the small folk over here get some attention from the noble lady, at least, that like, hey, like, your soldiers are assaulting our women, you know. And this is the point to really Ormond, a political move on Ormond's part to kind of appease the town folk, because, you know, as these are probably influential, you know, with their merchandising and money. I think they're merchants. I don't know. They're the upper class of this area, and, you know, they have some influence here. So if he gets into their good graces, then he probably is able to maintain more power, you know, for the time being, you know. So he's doing this more as a show to appease the people here, and to show that he is, you know, he's not a brutal leader here, a brutal commander. You know, he takes care of the abusive soldiers in his rank, and so he commands them to. Does he castrate him? Is that the idea? Is that I read the exact thing he said? You will be gelded. Is that what that means? Basically saying that he's gonna break his arm, basically do what he did to them, you know. And then what's interesting here is that also he does it right in front of also Darren here, right? His almost protege in a way, to kind of just showcase the type of leadership that needs to be done, you know. And, you know, everyone seems grateful here, you know, and everything seems fine. Okay, so maybe he's not so much of a bad guy, you know. That's what we're getting there, but we'll see later that he is. And then we get King's Landing, and we get this is a fun little scene here with Orwell here. They're speculating what to do, you know, and oh yeah, they're talking about the church and like what they should do about the church, and that, you know, Orwell's like, hey, like, maybe you don't need their approval that much, you know. Do you really need their approval? And like, we can get you to be coordinated without them. And even going as far as thinking about, oh, like, maybe, you know, if you do replace, you know, the High Septum, you know, do you mean perhaps to permanently? Because then maybe that would work. But I think, you know, Rhaenyra is kind of suggesting that, like, Orwell was suggesting to kill him, but I think Orwell was assuming that Rhaenyra was thinking that, you know. And that's part of the just a narrative trick or the narrative conceit that the show has with the audience as well. It's like to have us kind of speculate and think about what is Rhaenyra thinking. We're kind of in Orwell's mind here. Is she thinking? Has she gone far enough now into the deep end where maybe she's considering assassinating the septum and putting in her own puppet for the church? And I think that there's the indication that perhaps maybe she's thought of that, but she's not at the point yet where maybe she will never get there. But she's not at the point where she is going to do that. She's going to kill and assassinate, conspire to assassinate the High Septum. And then, but Orwell's like thinking, because Orwell, he's like, he's a survivor. He's trying to like. He's a good like council member here, but he also is like, trying to always be on her good side to whoever's in power. So he's kind of suggesting, thinking about, oh, maybe she does want to kill this guy. So maybe that, that would be a way to permanently, maybe that would work better if there's some subterfuge there. But then, of course, Rhaenyra, rejects the idea. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But I'm a little bit impressed. She says that you were this bloodthirsty. But again, I think Orwell wasn't really wanting to do that. He was just kind of like playing along, to not be too contrarian, against Rhaenyra. But but I guess this whole sequence is here. Like, Rhaenyra's still, mostly a benevolent leader, at this point. And so then we get the Eyrie, I think it's called. This is probably the best throne in the whole franchise, right? I don't know. I remember. I don't think there's too many thrones, but it's a pretty cool. Definitely fitting for the area. Like, it's a twisted tree trunk of a thing there. Like, I don't know why everyone's fighting over the freaking Iron Throne with the freaking swords and everything. I mean, I guess it might make sense for someone like Daemon, but damn, like, they should be fighting over this throne. That's the throne you want to sit on. And so this is cool. He's basically here to ask for some money, and she obliges. She's like, yeah, okay, I'll give you some money. And she I assumes expects some more. She probably feels like this is a good tactical move to be on the good side of the crown. And she probably has a lot to spare. By the way, she also has those eggs, so those dragon eggs. So she's somewhat satisfied with what's with her position right now. And of course, she has Sheep Stealer, even though chaotic, still in her backyard. So I imagine she's gonna probably ask for some more stuff later on. We'll see where that goes, but. Good fun scene. It's nice to see this area. This is it would be nice to hang out here some more. Like, maybe we could have some more people come here and hanging out. Because this is a fun place, and maybe someone can be thrown off into that hole again. Remember that this was that in Game of Thrones, that one point, they were about to throw Tyrion down here or something, and then I think they pushed someone else down here. I forgot who it was. I think it was an important character, actually. I won't spoil it, but that was fun. Anyway, so that's that. And then he, on his way out, his dragon, Caraxes, is like, hey, like, there's something over here, So he was like, he can't control him. Like, hey, obey me, but he doesn't obey. And takes him to a cave over here. I guess the caves don't have to be super big. I guess it's interesting that the dragons can squeeze in there. I guess the dragons can kind of just fold their wings real tight. Maybe they're kind of cat-like in that way. They kind of just can make themselves real small and squeeze in through holes. Anyways, so of course we get the meeting here of finally we have Bela here, confronting her father. And the thing is that we haven't really seen a scene between them really like have a conversation ever, really. I don't think so. Like, have we seen them have an actual father daughter conversation? So this scene is great to see because I've been wanting to. We've been needing a little more of that. I mean, of scene between them, feeling like they're if it feels like Bela and Reina have been kind of left behind a bit, or not really acknowledged that much, particularly by Damon. It's part of this character. He's not as concerned with that than with his daughters or family. Maybe if they were sons, he would be more inclined. And I think so that's part of his character, but still it just feels like they could have had a little bit more scenes with them to better establish their relationship, explicitly versus implicitly. And this scene would have landed a lot better because if we had that, we get a good sense of how they feel about each other here. She kind of lays it out how like she says that I'm like the daughter that you, or she's used daughter, or the daughter that you least like or whatever, or least important or whatever, because Bela's like the one with the dragon and everything, the official dragon, the legitimate dragon, and so she feels like the least of the family, right? And so but then we do get a sense that like Damon here still has sympathy. It's still his daughter. He still cares about her, and he's upset at her, of course, and disappointed, but doesn't want to lead to her demise, suggesting really that she, like, I guess, runs away with him, or even go up to King's Landing and explain to Rainier what happened. But Reina's like, no, that's never going to work. She's going to hate me. She's going to, so the plan here is really for her to just stay out of sight pretty much. And she's trying to convince him not to tell Rainier about it. And so he has to figure out, shit, what am I going to do? I can't, I'm going to have to keep this a lie, to protect Reina, and it's it's interesting, like it would have been better if we seen more between them before, and also even more with Reina, because right here I'm just wondering like how she's dealing with this. Like it would have been nice to have like maybe a third of episode just hanging out with Reina out in the wild, have a little bit of survival episode or something, or scenes of her like making do, and like, because she she's like pretty much a princess, right, in a way, and like, yeah, and so like how is she even managing to now suddenly become homeless in the wild, like that would have been some better character development here. And I know they're kind of like they're kind of melding her character with another character called Nettles from the book that doesn't exist in this adaptation, so they're kind of mixing those characters together. But yeah, it feels a little bit, her character does feel a little bit lacking in scenes and development here, but we get a general idea of where she's positioned at, and her motivations and all that. And then she flies away, and then in here really is the moment that kind of like more clearly solidifies the kind of character, or I guess reaffirms the kind of character that Damon is, and the lengths he's willing to go, and to proceed with his means of and in his wants and desires, and conceal things if necessary. He feels like it by taking out people, killing people that he feels that are below him, literally and also figuratively. Of course, remember he talks about how he feels like he's a god, so like he looks down at the sheep herder, just happens to be down there, we don't quite know while he looks down there, just oh, you happen to see a dragonfly by, like, so what? But he's thinking, I gotta do something to get Rhaenyra to not keep hunting sheep stealer, and finding out about Rhaena. So we'll get to that once he arrives at the council meeting. But first, we have Ormond showcasing his anger here. So this character trope, or trait that we've seen before, of the seething anger certain characters may have, certain toxic men may have, that they kind of just explode. That happens in life. People, the anger management issues are a real thing. But sometimes I feel like, it just feels like a little much. Like we've seen that a lot. Like maybe I feel like maybe would have been more effective if he wasn't so extreme about it. I don't know. Like it just sometimes it seems like an easy cheat. Like, oh, let's just have this character have outbursts of madness and have him like destroy the furniture and stuff and throw things and everything. It's like, okay, but it's an easy way to indicate to the audience, like, oh yeah, this guy's unstable. He's dangerous, even though he has this veneer of elegance, and concern with his perfumes or whatever. So, and what's interesting is that Darren, of course, knew what was going to happen. He warned the other servants to leave the room. Like, hey, you got to leave. He's going to become violent. He could probably throw a goblet at you without realizing. And almost as if he's experienced some abuse in the past, So that's they're again building up get Darren's character here. He's experienced this abuse for his whole life, and so I guess the big thing here is that he finds out that Aemond is not coming to help out, and Aemond's on missing pretty much, and Gwaine, I think, is coming to Tumbleton, right? Is that what he said? And I think. Is it? But didn't Kristen Cole want to attack the other army? So maybe they won't be coming to Tumbleton yet. Maybe they'll fight they'll do a sneak attack first on the other army. I don't know. We'll see where that goes. So here's the Ulf trying to ask for some favors for his friends, and then getting disappointed and shocked here when Rhaenyra is like, hey, actually, you have to stay here at King's Landing. You can't be going out in taverns and filling up your belly because you are very important now. You have a dragon. And so he's realizing that he's losing a lot of his liberties, that he was accustomed to, and that, signing up for this dragon riding thing isn't all it's chalked up to be, but also it's kind of also showcasing how Rhaenyra is a little bit insensitive and also uncaring so much about people who she feels are kind of beneath her, and so he's kind of reminding her of that, like, hey, like if you get a little too cruel, the people will start hating you more. And there's already some rumblings in the streets. I saw it. There's graffiti that says that you're the bastard queen. Like, so the little power he does have, he uses here. It's not completely, maniacal, manipulative, intentionally so, like a big schemer, but he does take the advantage to like kind of, weaken Rhaenyra a little bit here. And by letting her know that, and then what does she do in response? She sends out the police, like, hey, take care of it. Not even so much focused on acknowledging or addressing the root cause, or trying to maybe like talk to the people about it, maybe some kind of speech or something, or something. She is too busy with the other war stuff. She's like just I'll let the cops deal with it pretty much. Like round up people, get answers, and punish those who've done the graffiti and wash the graffiti away. Instead of really showcasing that she can be a good queen. That those things don't matter. These rumors. She takes it really personally, of course. So again, we're seeing little cracks in her in her ruling tactics here. Building up again. And we'll see the gold cloaks attack in a bit. But of course we're back here with Aegon and Laris, and this is the moment that Aegon has to learn his lesson. He's still, even at this point, I'm like, damn, like Aegon, don't you realize by this point that you have to kind of like humble yourself a little more, like. But certainly at this point where the guy puts his knife on his chin, it's like, hey, like you don't talk to me that way. Get down. I'm the ruler of this camp, and kiss my freaking shit-covered boots. And so this is a moment where I feel like Aegon's gonna have to learn. Like, what was Laris thinking this whole time? Laris like, oh fuck, he's gonna die here. It's all ruined. But luckily, he gave it one last chance, pretty much. Like, okay, kiss my boot, and if you freaking do that again next time, I'll cut you up. And I think Aegon will probably listen from now on and be a little bit more calculating and not so impulsive. I suspect so. And so then we get back to the council. And here we have the full council pretty much. I think this is pretty much the full council now. We got Alan here as acting hand. So Daemon comes back. There's Mysaria. Oh, because interesting, Mysaria is like at the end here, almost kind of like the two queens. That's interesting. Look at that. Interesting. And then of course Orwell. And then we have the guy from the dinner party that kind of did a little bit of undercutting of Rhaenyra there. And I guess she saw that he had some cleverness to him or something, and so she assigned him to be the coin guy, the head of coin. What's it called? And so it feels like he could probably potentially betray Rhaenyra. I feel like this is probably the least loyal of the council members. This guy. But we'll see where that goes. He does, he's like, oh, maybe we should tax some more to get some of the coin, but they don't really listen to him so much. But I guess the big thing, of course, here is pretty huge, is, of course, Daemon comes in with the freaking skull of that sheep herder he saw, declaring, hey, I took care of the rider of sheep stealer, sheep stalker, sheep eater, and it's all good, and in the dragon flew away, and you don't have to worry about that anymore. Basically, in the middle of the meeting here, as if it's not that big of a deal. In a way, it's a very like almost chauvinistic thing of just like, okay, I did the murder, I used my sword, and let's move on. Let's continue with let's go, and let's not think about it. Like it's typical Daemon, but also it could also be a calculated move on his part to kind of just try to rush through it to get, hopefully, to get past it enough so Rhaenyra won't ask too much questions. But of course, definitely the very effective way of filming here, seeing Rhaenyra's reaction, and then also Mysaria, she's noticing something's off here. Interesting that the two women here are the ones that take notice, while the other guys are just like, whatever. Because I guess that's what they expect from rulers and kings, to just be brutal like that. And so, of course, Rhaenyra dismisses everybody and wants an explanation. She wanted to take vengeance herself. She wanted to talk to the rider of Sheep Stealer, because they suppose the Sheep Stealer they were responsible pretty much for the death of Jacaerys. And so, Damon does a pretty good job here of convincing her, like, hey, actually, I spared you that vengeance, now we can move on and you don't have to worry about it. And I get, it's convincing enough. And Rhaenyra, I guess, also is kind of just like, maybe now she's like, okay, maybe I can feel a little bit of relief now, and we can move forward. She even says that I should thank you. So he was pretty successful, Rhaenyra, who is in a vulnerable state right now, but it also has a lot of her on her mind. She's like trying to, she's only been ruling for like a couple days at this point or something. But the ever clever Mysaria does notice something's off, and she is close by, listening in, trying to get make sure she listens in on every word, and then even asks him, like, hey, who's that head? Daemon doesn't really respond, but he understands that Mysaria is suspicious of something. So we'll see where that goes. Is Mysaria gonna uncover the truth and gonna have to tell Rhaenyra, and then that's gonna become a whole debacle again between the three of them? That could be interesting. We'll see where that ends up. But yeah, pretty vicious again, showcasing that Daemon is capable of killing innocents for the sake of his own. He's all about the ends justify the means situation type of philosophy he has. And yeah, I mean, we've seen Daemon in a lot of like gray area situations in terms of good versus evil, his recklessness sometimes, but he's but a lot of times, like, it was always like on the edge, or sometimes it wasn't acknowledged, like the moment, like it was kind of off screen, like the moment when he sent the rat catcher to kill Aemon, like, the rat catcher's like, oh, what if we don't find Aemon, and then it cuts to Daemon, and he's about to respond, we suspect he responds like, oh, like, then I guess the next best thing is another prince, maybe Helena's baby. And like, we never get any confirmation whether or not he said that, but it's always up in our heads, like, oh, like, when does Daemon cross the line? Like, how far does he go with his depravity? And so, we're seeing a little bit more of that now, and a little bit more confirmation of that. Yeah, he does. He is a wicked person, killing this innocent guy who, like, just happened to be there, for the sake of himself and Rhaena. And also, like, he probably doesn't want, he wants to be more, he wants to focus more on what's ahead, and he feels like it would be a distraction to focus so much on Sheepstealer at this point. And yeah, so that's that. And then we get Rhaenyra offering some jewelry from her father here, from Alicent's father. A little bit of like trying to mend things a little bit, little by little. Maybe we can become friends again one day. And then we get a little hint here that Helena is pregnant here. That's really the only thing we can surmise here, right? I thought it was interesting also, like in the background, like it seemed like she was having trouble putting on her dress even. I was thinking, like they particularly have that in the background there, as if like, it's getting a little tighter. And then of course we have, as she's buttoning up her thing, like, it's like, oh, wait a second, are you getting bigger there? Like, and then, so this is a secret, of course, Helena wants to keep, because of course it's going to introduce a whole lot of different, more problems. Because obviously, like, Rhaena and her council and all that, and Daemon particularly is gonna want to recommend to get rid of all the potential heirs to the throne. You know, they're already, you know, potentially gonna want to kill Darren, and now if Helena has another baby potential heir, that's going to become an issue. And so that's something, you know, maybe they can use, Team Green can use to their benefit, perhaps. Maybe, I mean, it could go any certain ways, you know. Maybe even Darren becomes so evil eventually because he's being taught to be evil by Ormond, that he's gonna take out his own, take out Helena's baby there. Potential threat to his heir. I don't know. It's like anything happen, but they have to keep that a secret for now, for sure. And Helena's definitely not gonna want to sacrifice another kid. You know, one of her kids already was killed. But you know, there's the tactical and philosophical and questions here. It's like, maybe if the kid's gonna be murdered anyway, maybe it's better to drink some moon tea and abort the baby at this point. There's so many like calculations, you know, that all these characters could be making here. Like, what is Alicent gonna suggest here? Like, you know, it's good. It's gonna complicate things. And then, you know, we get a good view of this of Hugh's dragon here. It looks like he's come to town here to visit his wife, I think. Interesting. I didn't really, yeah. That is where he's landing, right? Yeah, she sees the dragon there. Does she recognize? I mean, she must know that he's riding a dragon, right? He must have sent word to her. But it's a very distinctive looking dragon. Like, I didn't recognize it. So this is what his dragon looks like. Has like a big a thick neck. There. Anyway, so here we have the scene of the gold cloaks going through and trying to find the people responsible for this blasphemy of defamatory queen bastard graffiti and all that. Again, showcasing that even you know, a benevolent leader is still authoritarian, and she's gonna let the cops do the talking for her in a lot of these situations. You know, that's an unfortunate situation with that. You know, and the thing is that, like, we saw the Gold Cloaks be vicious in the first season with Daemon at the head of them, and now it's kind of becoming more. It's not as brutal as that scene. They're not cutting people's hands off, but maybe they are. We don't really see. Okay, they're beating people, and you know, it's pretty similar. And there's probably more we don't see here. So it's pretty much replicating that scenario. That you know, ACAB includes the Gold Cloaks, includes Ice. You know, it's like the second person this week that was killed by Ice. You know, these things have to be addressed at the root. You know, we can't just get a new leader in charge to fix things like that. You gotta abolish it altogether. Anyway, so like that's what's happening there, and we go back to the high towers here, and we get really the conclusion to this little moment here of like who Ormond really is. You know, we've been getting hints. You know, he's really all about his bloodline. He's telling him like, hey, like we're actually superior to Targaryens. Targaryens are more animalistic. You know, he tells him not to get too close or affectionate with the dragon. You know, telling him basically establishing that Darren here is pretty much half High Tower, of course, and half Targaryen, or the blood of Viserys and the blood of Alicent. You know, and Ormond here wants to, you know, I guess like kind of like get Darren here to make use of his Targaryen blood, but also make sure it doesn't overpower him. and take over the superior part of his lineage, which is Hightower, you know. And the fun and interesting thing is, of course, like it's almost a subversion of the idea of the Targaryens being brutal and versus, you know, other houses. And he's saying like because Darren is like, oh man, I should be merciful to this guy, and Ormond's like, that's what your father would say, Viserys, because Viserys was known to be a merciful king, you know. He ruled over a long time of peace, and so he actually, you know, a good leader would showcase his power and strength by killing this guy. You know, you can't be merciful, and you know now Darren has drawn first blood, and his first blood, and that's the line, right? Once you kill your first person, you just lose that sympathy and empathy a little more and more. And it's just the beginning of the end for Darren here. So, I mean, we get a good idea of Darren's character in this episode, of the stakes that he's been put in, and what they want him to be, what Ormond wants him to be. You know, the potential he has this dragon as well, of course, and he could potentially be a serious threat to the throne, and Ormond at his side to get there. You know, that's what Ormond wants, to get his family name back in power, what he feels is rightfully, you know, his. And he's anti-mercy. You know, he's gonna be brutal about it. He's gonna pretend to maybe appease people, certain people, have a facade of honorability, being honorable, punishing rapists and stuff, but then, you know, and behind closed doors, actually punishes the person that complained about it, you know, and to showcase that, hey, like actually that night represents our rule, represents your family, you know. He says that to Darren, like, you know, by besmirching him, he's besmirching you, so you got to take him out. So that's his true colors there. So I think, you know, it's more effective so far in illustrating Ormond's character. Darren's character, I still feel like we could have used more time with him before this moment, and that was it's just one of the things about these long form shows that have so many characters, that they didn't feel like they had the budget or time to really introduce Darren early on in the previous seasons. But even like one episode, a couple scenes of Darren would have helped a lot to really better establish him. Of course, you know, their plan was really just to, I imagine it's all just logistics and budget issues of like, let's just keep that character till later seasons. But maybe like if this season had a couple more episodes, again, there's another criticism that could be applied to last season, could potentially apply to this season as well. It's also going to be 8 episodes. But you know, overall, like it gets the message across, right, of what this character is, what he represents, Darren. So, and that's the episode. It's a more table setting, that I think, again, it kind of similar to what we've been accustomed to in some other seasons of the Game of Thrones franchise. But it's feeling like, you know, this House of Dragon is finally, like, in a way, feeling a lot more comfortable with itself, and kind of like being on par with some of the better seasons of the Game of Thrones series. While last season was kind of felt like it was a little bit too much dragging its heels, you know. Um, so of course, like I said, like with some, it's good pacing overall, but with some of that does come some shortcomings with characters like Dan, with characters like Reina, who I feel like could have used some more screen time. But the stakes are still high, and all the pieces are coming together, and all these characters I'm invested in. I'm interested in. I think everyone is getting their moments in the spotlight here, and it's building up to some cool, some grand. Like I imagine we'll probably end the season with Orman's troop fighting against like the Starks or some the Damon and Stark troop or something, like army. We haven't seen that Stark army in a while. They were partying in the woods. So, and then of course the Aegon situation and his potential resurrected dragon could be a thing. So the small folk could revolt, cause some issues with Rhaenyra. That could, the Greens could maybe take advantage of that. I don't know. So much could happen. A lot of good stuff. A lot of it's again a good political episode again with the politics of what's going on between all the factions and the people and the nobles and the small folk and the armies and it's good stuff. It's some good House of the Dragon. I'm enjoying it. I think these are the 4 episodes that the critics were given. So, which I think a lot of critics have been glowing about it. But I think from now on, the next half, which is we're halfway through the season, I'm not sure. I don't think the critics have seen it yet. So, hopefully, it'll continue with this momentum, and and we'll have a good season on our hands here. Hopefully. But let me know what you think, and until next time, I'll be here under the moonlight. Bye bye.